So now we're going to talk about Bootstrap and specifically responsive design and how we use a framework like Bootstrap. So this is a pretty straightforward one. It was created by the people at Twitter as developers needing a way to create a responsive design, a way to have one code base for a single, for multiple devices. And so different screen resolutions can all have the single code base instead of having multiple code bases to manage. So we're going to talk about how you use this and the concepts of it. So when we say one code base for multiple devices, what we really mean here is that I can log in with my phone or my desktop or anything in between and have a good visual experience. And so it restructures the page to fit each one of those devices. I'm going to use the Boston Globe as an example because they were one of the first media organizations to make this switch. Some of the tech companies had done it, but really the first news organization to do this was the Boston Globe. So here we have the mobile side. You can see that it's kind of the content goes all the way across. And you'll also see that here on the other side is you have two columns. And so it breaks the columns down, and that's kind of a tablet size. And then if we go up to the full desktop size, we have three columns. So same content, just being flows through the interface in an easy way. Now you see this all the time on websites, but we're going to learn how to do that. Here is all the content all at one time, just so you can see how deep the page goes. But all the content just flows properly based on using this grid system. So we're going to leverage a framework called Bootstrap. You could use whichever framework is your favorite. There is things like Canvas, and there's all these other ones out there. Some fad ones always come out, and so you're welcome. But Bootstrap's been around; it's pretty stable, and many people have used it for years, and it's a nice, strong one. It's continued to grow, and now they're on version 5. What we're going to do is we're going to download or get started. We're going to download the files and take a look. So first, let me show you what we need to do first just to understand how this works. So if you look over here on this side of the screen, I have multiple columns, and you'll see this says column 4, column 4, column 4. You see we have rows and columns. If I stretch this out or shrink it, so let's shrink it first, you see now we only have 3 pieces here, column 4, but the other ones drop down and one dropped below the other. So let me stretch this back out and you see what happens. See, the way we can control this is we can handle how it moves at different sizes. So in this case, it's stacked. In that case, it chose to stay the proper width. And there's reasons we want to do one or the other. So let's go down a little farther and look at some of these other options. So if I scroll this one down, you'll see we had what was 3 equal columns is now 4 stacked groups. And so we're going to learn how to manage and control this as we go. So I like this particular one because it handles things really well in different sizes. So let's learn how to control it. What you need to do is to go to getbootstrap.com. And you can go to examples. Obviously, read the docs is all the information that you need. And if you were using Node Package Manager and you use Node.js, then you could do this, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to do a simple download. So, so one of the things we're going to do is go look here, examples. And you can download all the examples, not the source code. You can download the examples, but here's what they look like. Here's the different ones. And it's really just a starting point, a place for you to get started to learn how to do this. And you can do the basic template, and there's lots of others. But when you click download, it gives you the entire folder here. It's a zip file, double click on it, and you'll get all of these examples. Okay. So that grid one that I just did, let's go back and look at that real quickly so I can show you how easy it is to change things. So over here in my code, I have drug the folder to Atom or your favorite text editor, and I go here and open grid, and then there's 2 files. There's a grid.css and an index.html. You'll see that that HTML is open right here. So just so you know, I'm like working at on the right one here. I can come in here and say, change this to my headline, hit save. And then now when I refresh this page, you'll see I'm editing the right page. So as we look at this HTML, we have 4 columns. So it says column 4, column 4, column 4. Notice this one has column small 4. Okay. So what happens is it says that if it's small, I want it to be a 4. Otherwise, it goes all the way across. Okay. So one thing I could do here is change this to a column 6. And then these all need to add up to 12. And we'll talk about that in detail in a minute. But 6 plus 4 is 12. That's not enough, right? So I want to change this to a 1. Or let's do 2. Okay. And then 4. So now what you'll see is when I refresh this page, you'll see this one's wider than the others. Okay. I could also go to a 3, because 3 plus 3 plus 6 equals 12. And then now I refresh that, I have a 6, 4. So if you want them to be all equal, you do 4. If you want them to be, the different proportions, you can change the size. Again, they all need to add up to 12. If it adds up to less than 12, here's what happens. Just gives you space on the end. Okay. Notice that I'm doing that very quickly. Command S on the Mac, so Command S to save, and then Command Tab will switch my which application I have. So I hit Command S when I'm on Atom. Command Tab switches me over to my previous application, which was the browser, and then Command R to refresh. If you get used to using those commands, it'll make your life much faster. So if we think about our code, everything falls under a container. So if you look on the far side here on the code side, you'll see container, and then you see the container has rows, class called a row, and then inside that row we have columns. Okay, that's the basic concept that you need to understand. And that in any one of these columns you can then create sub rows or sub columns inside of that and nest things. So we have these things called breakpoints, and breakpoints are essentially at what resolution does the code change to make it flow down. And so we've just basically given those breakpoints. It's 5 different sizes. So extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So extra small is really like a phone, small is like a small tablet, medium is like a medium-sized tablet, large is like a laptop, and extra large is anything greater than that. And so it just kind of flows through. And as long as you're hitting those main 4 ones, you're going to be fine. Now you can fine tune and change those sizes. And there's a specific resolution for each one of them. But we don't have to deal with that for this class. Also with Bootstrap comes all these extra styles, all these extra things that are way more than just the columns themselves. And so you can use all these different buttons and UI interfaces and all these extra things. You're welcome to use those in this class, but specifically on your first assignment you're going to do, I want you to change the colors. So you're not just using their default colors, but you're making something special and unique for your project. But you can leave the same corner radius and all of those things, just changing the colors and the fonts and that kind of stuff. So let's try it. Let's just play a little bit. So I'm going to go here to the starter template. So I want you to open the folder that says starter template. I want you to make sure that you have it open in your browser. So I have that browser over here. And then I also have the code open for starter template. Now, it automatically comes with some information in it already, where it says get Bootstrap, that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do is take a look at this code and walk you through it. So you see, we load the Bootstrap files information here. There's nothing at the top other than some style sheet loading. So we load bootstrap.min.css, and that's the basic structure of Bootstrap. And then they included some styles that they did just for this template. We don't have to do those. I don't like them in line. I would prefer those to be on a separate style sheet like this, but that's the way they did it, and we'll just accept it the way it is and just leave it there. But as you come down here, you can see you can change the width of these things by changing the columns. And so we'll just call this travel site. And then just to show us we're doing this right, we are going to, I'm going to remove that. I don't really need that span class. we'll go ahead. Actually, we can just, oops, sorry. We can select this, oops, I keep closing it. Sorry about that. Select the whole div here, or the whole header class, all the stuff inside of it, and I will change some pieces of it. So we'll just cut that link out. And then if I wanted to move that H1 up here, I could do that, save it, and you'll see now we have travel site as the header. Now you could go to one of these other examples, and if you liked the sticky nav from here, you could just go copy its code and use this sticky nav. So maybe this is the template you want to start with. There's lots of options. Feel free to do whichever one you want. But what I want you to see here is how we change the columns to make different widths. So you see where it says starter project here. Okay, that's right here on this side. Sorry. We want to make that, let's do a 6, let's do it like more than 6. So we're going to make this an 8 and a 4. Okay, it changes the size, and now we have a nice column. Okay. Those are the main things you're going to change. Notice this changes on medium. We could make this also be something different for small. So we can do column, small, 6. And then we also need to do it here, column, small, we'll do 6, so it'll be 50-50. Okay, save it, refresh, nothing changes, right? So what I'm gonna do is gonna drag this, and you see now it just jumped to the 6 and 6. There it is a 8-4, 6-6. See how that works? Notice that our margins are going away. That's just a default thing that it handles with the container class. The container class is really helpful in our project, and it helps. Let me find it really quick. I'll just, they don't have container in here. So by that, it just default does that without having the container. Sorry about that. And it handles it for you. So we have lots of different content here, and you can cut this out and start from scratch. So one of the things you might want to do is just start nice and clean. So you see where it has the header, right below header, I'm going to delete most of the main here. And then I'm going to simplify this. So let's just go div class equals column LG, I'll do medium because I like sticking to medium. Medium 8. Close the div. And this is my main content. Now, one of the things is you might want to just make colors and things to change that can help you. So typically what I do is in the CSS file, I'll create something with a div called gray box. And then I can do border is 1 pixel solid black, and background color gray, color black. So I just created this little simple class here just to help me outline and see what's going on. Now when I switch back to index, I can just add that to any box I want, or to any class I want. And now if I refresh this, all right, I broke something. Right, so something did not work properly. What did I do? I have a extra quote. You don't need that. Let's go back and fix that. And now you'll see the box is gray. So the box showed up gray. Notice that it didn't have a specific depth. It only had whatever content was in it. If you wanted to change that content, think about it for a second. What would you do in the CSS? You could set min height 200 px. All right, and so now that column will always be much, or 200 pixels deep. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back to our HTML. And to go along with this 8, we need maybe a 4. And then this is the sidebar. And so if I refresh it, it won't be nice and great. Oops, I didn't save it. And this is the sidebar. Now, why did that end up at the bottom? This is the little frustrating thing. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I want to do is take off gray box and see what happens. Still at the bottom. If I take off a gray box here, and refresh, it's still at the bottom. So what's going on? Let's think about this in lots of different ways. I'm going to leave this here so we can see it. All right. And if I stretch it out, does it still happen? Yes, it still happens. So let's see if we can work through this. One thing we want to have is a row. That is a piece that each, it's nice to contain all your columns in a row. And I can comment this just to show what it is. Now, if I refresh it, did it fix it? Yes. Okay, so here's just a little frustrating thing. You got to contain your stuff in rows for it to flow properly and for it to understand and count the columns right. So you create a row, then inside a row, you put your different column widths adding up to 12. That's the basic of Bootstrap to get the content flowing like you might want. I encourage you to use the videos from LinkedIn Learning to go advanced and learn how to use some of those components and things because they do a really nice job of doing that. So, but that's all we have for now, and I hope you have enough to do your assignment. Let me know if you have any questions.